Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, and good night to you, wherever you are around this soccer world of ours. Welcome to Corner Kick USA. I'm Alex Fidrishevsky here for a solo show. JJ will join me once again at the weekend. And oh, well, folks, we've got a lot of big news to talk of, but none is bigger than the united bid, the USA, Mexico, and Canada being granted the 2026 World Cup. Don't want to go too deep into this one because it did just break today. I want to have JJ here for a full analysis and talk about it in a little bit more depth, but it's a big happening for soccer in North America for obvious reasons. This is the biggest tournament in the world. It's back on American soil, and it can be a great building block for many aspects, if you ask me, of the game in North America, from USL with their newly minted D3 league coming in their expansion, the Canadian Prem getting started. Youth circles can benefit from this, and yes, even the Pro Rel folks, they've got a runway now where they can start working on things. I'm going to touch upon that in a little bit, but let's keep it simple right now. It's huge on and off the field. USA and Canada have 8 years, along with Mexico, who is also part of this bid, to prepare their national teams and their grounds and everything for the home stage. And this is now a big window for all of our leagues to grow. MLS might be nearing capacity, but does that maybe open the door to MLS too? Time will tell. The USL, we know they're on solid footing for a minor league, but there's room to grow at their D2 level, and they're adding this D3 league. Their D3 league, I think, could be massive in 8 years if they market this correctly. And the interest is only going to continue to grow there. And I think there's also room for the NPSL and the PDL too here. Maybe this is their path to pro, where they can get into an NPSL Pro League and a PDL Pro League if that's something they so desire. No, over the years have been around the NPSL, specifically with Joe Barone a few years ago, was interested in exploring that along with the NASL. That obviously went south as the NASL seemingly is done and cooked. And as I said, the youth systems in this country, they really should see added interest as well from this. It's really a great thing for all the involved host nations, for the U.S., for Canada, and Mexico. Obviously, we've got new markets in the MLS and USL. That's a good step. Need to see the clubs ramp up their academy systems, both levels, especially in the USL. That seems to be lacking a little bit, especially as the time draws near. The Canadian Premier League taking shape for next year. That's a good thing for North American soccer. It'll be an opportunity for Canadian players. I think they're going to have a little bit stricter foreign player rules than Major League Soccer does, and the kids are representing the national team in the United States. Hey, JJ and I talked about it. They did all right against France in a good period of time going on right now for American soccer, and a little fallout of that friendly. You could see some player movement. I think we knew Tyler Adams had a future ahead of him, but for me, Tim Parker really shined, and I think here's another guy with New York Red Bulls under Jesse Marsch who can potentially go overseas and make some noise. Maybe a Tim Ream type championship level player. I think he could be really solid down there. JJ and I talked about it at the weekend, that a guy like Parker or Will Trapp is also a bit of a now or never for Trapp, and I think Parker too, as they're in their mid-20s as it pertains to a European transfer. I was really impressed with the way they played, and I think he's also got a bit of next level ability to play in Europe. Trapp, that is, in addition to Parker. Just a brief little intro there, and again, JJ and I will touch upon the World Cup being awarded to the United States, Canada, and Mexico in a bid and a voting process that at the end of the day wasn't even close. The United bid crushed Morocco. It was something 130 and change to just over 60 votes for Morocco. So clearly the soccer world has spoken, and for all of the posturing and all of the politics that people were trying to play, saying, you know, would Donald Trump be the issue? Could the American presidency of Donald Trump be the problem? You know, they can they can take a rest easy knowing that none of that was a problem. Trudeau, Fox, Trump, I don't think it matters. The idea here is soccer, and the soccer world spoke, and this is a great moment for the U.S., for Canada, and for Mexico with this tri-bid. Now, before I get down to my my other notes here, the World Cup obviously started this morning. Russia made a statement with a 5-0 victory at the Luzhniki Stadium in Moscow against Saudi Arabia. They looked absolutely fantastic, albeit against a team that really probably shouldn't be there. But we'll see how well Russia handles their next two matches, specifically the Uruguay match. That'll be interesting to see. But the most important note of the entire match wasn't that Russia picked apart the Saudis. It was that Alan Jagayev is likely to miss the rest of the World Cup. And this is coming from the Russian team doctor, the Russian Football Union. They confirmed this afternoon that Jagayev had sustained a hamstring injury, and the length of time he will miss is going to be determined after a scan. It was a very, very brief statement. However, Alexander Yardoshvili, the team doctor for Dynamo Moscow, said that he believes the World Cup, based on the video he's seen, is done for Jagayev, who has a history of hamstring injuries. Just going through this ESPN article here. He's been with CSKA Moscow his entire career, really broke out for Russia at the Euros in 2012, but missed the 2016 Euros with a broken foot. So this is another unfortunate run there for an electrifying player. So I think just from a world perspective, you want to hope that a player in the World Cup, that a player like Jagayev can get back on the pitch, just like we want to see Mo Salah back on the pitch for Egypt. You hope that maybe it's just a little tweak, but from the way that that Jagayev came off the pitch today, slightly concerning for him and for the Russian national team. Though his replacement, Denis Cheryshev, banged in 2 goals. So some hope there for the Russian Bear, the manager, Cherchesov, as his team moves forward. Lots of matches. JJ and I will talk about the rest of the World Cup matches coming up on the weekend, and we'll review where we're at that point. Now, as far as the topic at hand here, I had promised some folks on Twitter that I would go and take a look at the Pro Rel for USA movement. And JJ and I have taken a lot of heat here on the show, on the radio and on television and on the podcast for the last couple of weeks for our business assessment show. I think that's the best way to look at how we did that. That we tried to warn people that Pro Rel isn't necessarily as beautiful as you think it is. And I think a lot of folks out there have taken it, I don't know if it's the wrong way, or that JJ and I are trying to stand against promotion and relegation in American soccer, or that there's inherent flaws in it. And to be quite honest, I don't think either of us are trying to discourage the movement. We're a part of it. We want it. We've made that very clear. Whether you've watched us on CWTAP on television, or you've listened to the programs, if it's the radio or the podcast, you know that we are on the side. It's just that we wanted to lay out some warnings that needed to be heeded in this movement of people that are pushing for it. The stories of Aston Villa laying off 500 employees after they got relegated. They canned the tea lady. This isn't JJ and I making it up. It is in an article. You can go find it. Aston Villa got relegated from the Premier League, fired the tea lady. The woman who brought the tea around in the office got fired. They had to cut budget. Or you talk about, I just brought up recently, Polish side, Drutex Bitovia Bitów. They went bust this year. Sponsor pulled out. Owner said, we're done, out, see you later. Multiple Russian sides didn't get licenses for next year in the top 2 flights, and how it was made very clear to Brukbet and Yachecza in Poland that it was build a ground, find a ground, or forget about the Ekstraklasa. You had, again, we've talked about other teams and examples of problems, financial issues that come with relegation and promotion, or you looked at, a team that never was relegated during his ownership and probably, should be safe with its new ownership. Bogusław Kupial pumping money into Wisła Kraków during his time and then getting tired of his toy. It's not meant to say it's bad that we don't want promotion and relegation. It's just to say that this isn't days of wine and roses. The reason for this, from my perspective, is not to talk about promotion. We know what promotion brings in its simplest on-field theory, but nobody likes to talk about the business or the brutal realities of relegation, which is what we're looking at, what I've been trying to look at, and what I think we're trying to make people aware of. It's not necessarily that I think I want to make you cautious. It's I just want to make you aware that these things will happen. And I strongly believe that being on the inside of these clubs on the NPSL level that I have, JJ's been at the USISL level, he's been at the NPSL level, and he's been involved on the national level for 20 years, that these clubs that you see, they're going to go in and out on an even quicker clip than we already see. We beat this topic up pretty hard, again, on radio, on television, on the podcast, but I wanted to address a few points that were thrown out at me over the last week, specifically with Twitter. Obviously, everybody was interested in our talking points on Aston Villa. Yes, the club didn't fold, and that was pointed out, and they could rehire people, but massive cuts were made. Massive. They fired 500 full and part-time employees when they went from the Premier League to the Championship, and we were challenged that they could rehire all of those people. Well, that's only if they win promotion, and they just ran out on the parachute payments. So that dream of those people being hired is on hold, and it may not come back because they may have to sell off some of their top players, and they just got lowballed on an offer for Grealish by Tottenham. Really, really lowballed. So there are serious issues that you have to consider even to that. And that's only if those people will work for them again that got let go, only if they haven't found another club to work for or another job. And in the United States, we don't have a number of clubs in proximity as they do in other regions of the world. And I think also our workforce, very different mindset. If someone loses a job in the soccer industry in, say, England, they may go back into soccer because it's ingrained in the culture that you can get a job at another club. And it's not necessarily that way here because not a lot of our clubs are full-time, and even the ones that are not employing 100 people, 200 people. They're employing 12, 15 people, 5 people, and that's something that everybody here needs to realize. A lot of them are operating on shoestring budgets, and that's not just here, that's the world over, that once you get down into the lower leagues, this is the reality. And even at the top level, these people aren't necessarily making boatloads of money. I know people who are working in ticket offices in Major League Soccer, they're getting paid under $10 an hour. So these are all issues that you have to take into consideration. If someone here loses a job in soccer because of this magical relegation system, the odds of that individual finding another full-time job in soccer, going back into soccer, are going to be far worse than a lot of other nations where you can go from a club in your town to a club 3 towns away, 10 minutes, and get a job that's full-time job in soccer. Let's take, right now I'm doing this from our Pittsburgh studio. If Pittsburgh Riverhounds got relegated, it would be nearly impossible for a laid-off employee of the Pittsburgh Riverhounds to remain in soccer in Western Pennsylvania at this current juncture. They are the only professional club in a region of over 3 million people. 3 million people in Western Pennsylvania. One professional club. There's no pro club in Johnstown they can go work for. There's no pro club in Altoona they can go work for. It's not like they can drive an hour west to West Virginia and go work for a team in Wheeling because there is no professional club in those ranks. Not right now. And if you think magically opening up the system is going to bring that, it's going to take a long time. So let's bear this out. There's only so many soccer jobs in Pittsburgh as Tuffy Schallenberger can create for the Pittsburgh Riverhounds. If they went out tomorrow and got relegated and he had to lay off half his staff because of it, which isn't large to begin with, the odds of those people coming back to soccer as a viable job, if it was in Pro Rel here in America in 2018, would be slim to none. The odds of those people coming back to soccer, forget Pittsburgh, I mean anywhere, is slim to none. And the point was then made of jobs hired in quote-unquote their places at other clubs. That's true, but if the promoted club is not in, let's take Aston Villa, odds are promoted club isn't in Birmingham because Birmingham City's no good either. So for my example, ditto. If Pittsburgh got relegated and Manchester, New Hampshire had a club that got promoted into the USL, the odds of Pittsburgh soccer employees getting or even applying for those jobs in Manchester probably slim to none, especially the lower part-time workers, the lower wage part-time workers, the stewards, the concessions, the support staff, the ticketing staff. Maybe your upper level management can find a spot, maybe somewhere, because they're going to have a headhunter, an agent doing a little calling for them. Everybody else, that's a tall order. So And moving on, as far as USL jobs and NASL jobs that were lost when the sides and the leagues went bust. People, they can use promotion and relegation as their crutch, or it's minor league, it's this or that. It's because it's minor league and it's the perception, and we need to change the perception to make it Pro Rel, and that'll make everything better because we'll just, everything will be better. Even though the NASL was a horribly run league, or the USL clubs that have gone out were in bad markets or terribly marketed by their ownership and their management teams. That's not the problem. It's because Pro Rel isn't here, or minor league, it's a minor league, this or that. The more I read, the more I delve into it, the more I talk to soccer people, baseball people, minor league sports people, the more I'm involved in lower and non-league soccer. It's not minor league that's the problem. It's not necessarily even Pro Rel that is our problem. It's the lack of vision for local marketing within the organizations as set up by their ownership groups. Prime example of jack of all trades in minor league sports. I have a colleague who works in AA baseball. He's the play-by-play announcer. He's a digital marketing manager. He does the social media, so he's a social media guy. He's partner sales rep. He's going out selling advertising partnerships. He and I talk quite often about what they've got going on there and the pricing and, is there anybody I know who might be interested that I could give him a lead on, things like that. He's partnership sales rep. He's in charge of media relations, so he's got to reach out to all radio stations that they're not broadcasting. He's got to reach out to TV, newspapers. He has to do all that, communicate with the big league club that they're in a relationship with. And that's the reality. He's got several other responsibilities within the club on game day that he has to take care of. He's got to produce the video content, things like that. That's the reality of minor league sports and minor league soccer. It's not in Pro Rel. It's not in the least bit. And that's got nothing to do with, with reaching out. This is where you're at looking at it. And it's not Pro Rel that's the problem. It's not the fact that, the AA baseball team can't get promoted to AAA. It's just where you are in minor league sports. And D3 is still going to be D3. D4 is still going to be D4. You're probably going to be operating with 5 people in your office. If you're lucky, maybe you'll have 10. And that's not going to change with promotion relegation. It may be in the top flights it will, but once you get down to those lower levels, that is still not going to change. And success and failure of that isn't going to be on the ability of jobs lost by sides that went bust. It's going to be about public relations and partnership sales, which are the 2 most important departments of off-field investment in all of sport. It doesn't matter whether it's the NFL or your local wrestling promotion that does shows on a Saturday night at the local bingo hall. It doesn't matter. Without those 2 departments receiving the bulk of office side investment, no side can thrive, no matter how hard the Twitterverse supports them from 100 miles away. We're with the Sonic. Those meetings about moving from the MPSL to either USL or NASL or whatever pro level was being batted around, those discussions were so deep. And it was involving hiring full-time staff in the office as the primary driving force behind the club. Not in the coaching, not in the scouting staff, not in player signings. There was significant interest in figuring out how to budget to increase community outreach, promotional partnerships, more than any other aspect. And we spoke about budgeting for multiple people in each department. I mean, we batted around probably 100 ideas about how to do multifaceted, hyperlocal community outreach. And it was never that we needed Pro Rel to engage 1.4 million people in the greater Lehigh Valley. That wasn't what we were talking about. We weren't saying, if we only had promotion and relegation, that would just bring people out to the games. Because no, just because you have it doesn't mean people are going to go to the games. They have promotion and relegation in Poland. You get down to the 4th division, there's 35 people in a park. This is what you can get to. That is true the world over. You got to have the office side right to be able to reach out into the community. If you don't do that right, you're done. It's not going to work. It was never about the player personnel and the coaching side, and it was more about how could we manage the minor league side, quote unquote, if we reach that professional level. It was never nobody liked minor league sports in Lehigh Valley. Take a look at the baseball team in Lehigh Valley. Take a look at their attendances. People in Lehigh Valley have no problem going to minor league sports. The hockey team in Lehigh Valley doing really well. So it was more about realizing that if we got to that level, and even when we were in the NPSL, it was public relations and promotional partnerships. Writing those partnerships in a Pro Rel situation only is going to get harder, because it's going to be, if we go up, that means we're charging you more, and they may back out. And you're going to have to write that clause in. And oh, by the way, you're going to have to write in relegation clause too. JJ and I talked about it. You go down, now you're getting paid less. If you're getting $150,000 from a mid-size sponsor at the D3 level, well, now you're D4, now it's down to $50,000. This is the truth. Maybe even less, because we weren't even dealing with those kind of numbers at the NPSL level. So these are the main issues, and there's so many theories that need to be implemented, so many hours that you have to put into something like this to be successful. It's print and digital and broadcast media marketing, advertising, relationships, building those relationships with the media, getting their reporters out to your practices, to training, to the games, to your youth events, getting local youth clubs involved, bringing them out to the games. It means you might have to give tickets away. That means, you might be at a game where you're listing 1,000 people. If you've given away 250 tickets, you're hoping those parents are buying water and Coke. It goes with the territory. You have to have those youth clubs involved, get them coming out to the games, so you give a few games away to hope that they'll buy tickets. Business association means you got to get a part of your local business associations, the downtown groups, the Rotary clubs. It's your tables in your malls and your fairs and your festivals. It's all a big expense to get people through the turnstiles on match day on a regular basis. If you don't have the promotions and the partnerships, it's a big issue. You need that connected PR team, your owner, your sales office. And again, I'm reiterating a lot of what JJ and I spoke about, but this is the most important aspect of soccer in America, running a minor league sports team, running a professional sports team, whatever you want to call it. And promotion and relegation just makes it that much more difficult. Now, that isn't me saying it can't be done. I think it can be. It just means you have to have really good soccer people, and not everybody out there is really good soccer people. Sales office needs to be able to close not just the one big hit. I said this, Drutex, Bitovia Bituv. Look what happened a few weeks ago. Drutex pulls out of the sponsor, $6 million zloty a year. It's $2 million US dollars. Club's gone. Club's gone. Owner said, we're done. Maybe we'll be back again. Lower league, amateur soccer. So you're talking Usma Liga, 8th division. Maybe you're starting in to work your way back up to the top. And you need more than one big hit to survive. You need multiple large-scale sponsors. They have to be giving you cash, not trade. That's always hard at any level, but it's even harder when you get to the lower leagues, Pro Rel or not. Then you need dozens of smaller partners to be involved in multiple ways. Some of them might be in trade. We talked about it with the Sonic. Chick-fil-A was a trade. Media got the free sandwiches. Chick-fil-A got a little advertising. Sonic bought the sandwiches at a discounted rate, marked them up at their games. Sports is a very, very difficult business to be in. And soccer might be the most difficult sports business to be in. And the costs of Pro Rel, they're massive anywhere on earth, and I think we all know that. But in a country the size of the United States, it multiplies even more. The USL, look at its Eastern Conference. It goes from Ottawa to Tampa, from Rebel, New York to, they play Montclair, to Louisville, Indianapolis, Nashville. The West, it's just as big travel-wise. You're going, Seattle Sounders traveling to Rio Grande Valley. Sacramento's going to St. Louis. Might be bigger travel. You prepared for that in Pro Rel? JJ talked about it. You're in Ohio. You get relegated. Guess what? You're going to the Western Conference, but we're in Ohio. Sorry, you were the farthest team west that got relegated. You're now in the Western Conference. Could happen. Columbus Crew, Cincinnati, FC Cincinnati goes down. Let's say it's a National League. Go from D1, D2, D2, D3, National Leagues. You're done. You're down. Well, you're in the Western Conference, but we're in Ohio. Too bad. It's a big risk. And you could play the negative card of why should billionaires or millionaires invest in American Pro Rel right now if you could go to a country at the national level, be involved in soccer for a fraction of the cost. I've said for years, if I'm ever at that level and invest in soccer, right now with the current setup in America, probably be more apt to buy a club in Lithuania or Poland or Armenia. Travel from Vilnius to Kaunas or to Klaipėda is short. Wage bills aren't as high. If you're the rich guy bankrolling the team for his couple of years of your ownership, you're going to spend millions to travel across America when you can buy a team in Lithuania and bus them from Vilnius to Klaipėda. Bus ride's 3 hours. You can fly for under an hour. There's drawbacks there, don't get me wrong. Small population, only 2 or 3 big cities to invest in a club. Have the opportunity for multitude of sponsors is going to be very difficult, but on paper, if it's USL now, or even in Pro Rel, a Pro Rel league, or Lithuania, in the United States versus that, it's a tough decision. It's a tough decision if you're a businessman with a lot of money and you want to invest in soccer. You look at the media and the marketing. I said this before. Local radio, WGPA, with the Sonic, Service Electric, TV2. We did it. TV2 did it. Regular coverage of the club during the season. Had the matches on our air. Helped bring out people. Absolutely. Absolutely helped bring out people. Their attendance numbers were fantastic. But they had to invest in the beginning to get that coverage. It didn't just come. We've never told this story before. Sonic bought the time from us at WGPA in 2014. I thought I could sell it internally, but the owner of WGPA at the time, Jolly Joe Timmer, who's since passed, my mentor, made a great point. He wanted to judge year one, see how it went, if it was successful for them and for us from a listener standpoint. And if it went well, we wouldn't charge them the next year and we'd take care of it internally. So they paid for the radio time. That wasn't gratis. And that's a reality sides are going to face here in North America. Time doesn't always come unpaid from local media, especially not out the gate. However, through the partnership, Sonic got radio ads, and we did ticket giveaways, drove crowds to the games, phone interviews of the coaches, game day coverage. TV too, they give them similar public outreach, but they were a little further on, so they were in a little bit better stead with them. But I haven't even touched the Bucksmont Torch and what we did with MCWTAP, or I've been involved with them, or the folks I've spoken to at FC Monmouth on this topic. JJ's got a story of his own from his USISL days and from Sonic as well. 20 years on top of that national soccer experience. It's the, as JJ likes to call it, the sticky wicket that nobody likes to talk about, but this is the reality. Seems like everybody wants promotion. Nobody wants relegation for anybody but MLS and the USL. Everybody wants access to this magical top flight, but doesn't understand the financial investment that the access needs or that comes with it to get there. And if you think ownership, and I said this before, is going to just show up, they're going to just show up. It's going to just happen in American Pro Rel soccer. It's not going to happen. No. Some guy worth $500 million is probably not going to buy your pub team and take them to the top flight in America. If that's your dream, good luck, because it's one you're going to have to build for yourself, because it's not going to happen. And I see examples of some hope, though. And I know I've been pretty brutal in my 30 minutes here. But I do see some examples of hope that I think people should be smart to take a look at. Down in West Virginia, you're starting to see something certain. You got a guy down there in the Charleston area looking to bring senior and adult level soccer to the state of West Virginia. And not by getting a doctor's group from Parkersburg to be the owners or asking a billionaire from Charleston who's an oil guy, but by going out to the local youth clubs and discussing the addition of senior sides, adult soccer, for a future with a Pro Rel setup in West Virginia. That's where the movement should start. It's going to be best served from the bottom up in this case, because nobody's giving you top-down American soccer. You're not going to get MLS and USL on board with this unless you've got a massive pressure from the state level, from the state associations, from your NPSL, your PDL, everybody else. I think a great way to build this up would be to start with your state leagues and have your adult level Pro Rel. Not 36 different leagues, but one pyramid in each state, sanctioned by the state association. It means people are going to have to set their big egos aside to form the governing body. But without bringing each other together, it's not going to work. Look at where I grew up in New Jersey, JJ and I. New Jersey's got all sorts of leagues. Garden State League, all kind of other stuff. But if they're not unified, not a unified front and working as a fluid unit, how is the sanctioning going to work? You can't succeed with statewide Pro Rel if everybody thinks they're going to do it better, or nationwide Pro Rel if everybody thinks, well, my idea is better, my idea is different. Imagine if every English group thought they could have did it better. You'd add 500 leagues trying to knock each other off instead of a pyramid generally working as a fluid unit. And to me, the idea of starting out at county level, multi-county level, statewide leagues, maybe, then growing to grow into that promotion relegation from the county, the multi-county, the state league to maybe a more regional setup at some point, perhaps a few states. Then you get your East-West setups and a few divisions and national setups. Might be better time spent than bashing MLS. I bashed MLS a lot in the USL too. I don't deny that. But as I mature in this argument, it's not them that has to change right now. They got the sanctions. It's everybody else that has to change. Here's another idea. And this one I've thought about for a few years. How about we work together to get the states to sanction a state level of quote-unquote Division I? And from that, you don't need CONCACAF per se. You can have an American Champions League, European style. How's that? Just take a look at it. Maybe this is my crazy idea and I'm part of the 500. But it seems more attainable to me than breaking Don Garber and Papadakis and these guys down where they're going to eventually say, oh, yeah, our owners are on board. They invested $500 million into an MLS franchise. But, yeah, they're going to give it up. They're going to give it up for Pro Rel. Maybe there's a better way to do it. Bottom up. I like this idea of a West Virginia Pro Rel. Maybe you have 3 divisions, 4 divisions eventually in the state. Maybe the West Virginia Premier League sends 2 of its teams to the quote-unquote U.S. Champions League in third and fourth place. They go to the American Challenge League or whatever the heck you want to call it. Mimicking Europe, South America with their multiple tournaments set up. Copa Libertadores, Copa Sudamericana, Champions League, Europa League. You could do it without MLS and the USL. You can make revenues without MLS and the USL. There's plenty of ways to skin the cat. And I don't know if top-down is going to happen in American soccer, so why not from the bottom up? I think bottom up stands as a much better chance. I personally love my idea, but, it's my freaking idea, so I love it, which, again, that might put me in the I can do it better category, but right now, we don't have any. So we need to have open discourse and open discussion about how to build the Pro Rel culture, not by smashing MLS on Twitter or hashtagging Don Garber and railing on him a little bit. I think financially as well, because that's where I've been driving at this, and JJ and I have been driving at this, the idea of the finances of promotion and relegation. County, multi-county, maybe half a state, then statewide leagues. Financially, much more attainable at a much quicker clip than hoping for the billionaire, or however you want to call it, or National Pro Rel right away. If you go bottom up, what's your travel in where I'm now in Pittsburgh if you have an Allegheny County League? A couple of divisions potentially in Allegheny County. If it's all under one state organization, you got your Allegheny County League, Washington County League, Westmoreland County League, and then maybe you got from there your little regional league, Southwestern Pennsylvania region. So you might have a couple of Pittsburgh area clubs, a couple of Washington County teams in there, maybe a Greensburg side from out Westmoreland County. Then you got your, a little further east, your next region might be the Altoona, Johnstown, Somerset, that Bedford, that area can have its own setup. And northwestern Pennsylvania, your Erie, Sharon, that area up there is another region, another quadrant. Then maybe you have eastern Pennsylvania and western Pennsylvania as your quote-unquote maybe D2 Pennsylvania. It's just an idea because your travel's not as much. If you're in that regional multi-county league and you're going from Altoona, Johnstown, and Somerset and Bedford, that's not as far. You're only going an hour, 45 minutes in some cases. Maybe there's 2 teams in Altoona. You're only going across town. Even at the state level, how far is it? Your biggest drive might be Pittsburgh to Philadelphia, Philly to Erie, Erie to Scranton. It's more doable. It's more attainable at a quicker clip than opening it all up and we're going to wait for the sugar daddy. Here, you can build locally. If you're in a little town, truly, you want to create equal opportunity in U.S. soccer. If you do it this way, Mount Carmel, Pennsylvania, up in the coal region, nice Polish and Italian, Lithuanian town. They could stand a chance. because they can start building locally in Northumberland County. Maybe it's an insurance agent. Maybe it's the coal company up there. They can compete at a state level. At a national level, forget it. They couldn't even think about soccer. But at a regional and state level, multiple county leagues, East-West Pennsylvania, it's attainable. And then you've got your bigger ones, of course. You know, there's Hazleton and Allentown and Bethlehem who can go get Air Products or Atlantic Coal, the bigger companies. But it seems so much more plausible, so much more attainable than some type of just open it up. And I've just opened up another can of worms, but I can't wait to go do another one of these one day soon. JJ and I are going to talk about the World Cup on Sunday, and that'll do for this solo Corner Kick USA. God bless each and every one of you. God bless America. Ciao for now.